Our next speaker is Shafique Dawood, who is from Singapore, and he is talking on threats to national infrastructure, how to protect national assets from advanced persistent threats. And Shafique Dawood is working with a company called Group IB, and those who work in cyberspace, they know who and what Group IB does. He is the head of sales and business development for APAC region, and what Group IB is, it's intelligence-driven cybersecurity company. So are we ready for his presentation? Shafique Dawood from Group IB.
Absolute honor to be here, invited by you folks, for me to speak on threats to national infrastructure, and how Group IB protects national assets from APT attacks. So let me give you a little bit of background from Group IB. We are 17 years in the business. We are highly represented in Forrester, Gartner, IDC, and we have approximately around 450 plus different clients that we protect around the world with an annual growth of about 60%. We have about 400 plus cybersecurity specialists, primarily a lot of technical staff, and about 60,000 hours of incident response and investigations. We are official partners of Interpol and Europol, and we are highly recommended by SWIFT OSCE, and we are a member of the World Economic Forum. Let me get straight into the topic as I'm cognizant that I'm only given 15 minutes for this. It's very important for one to understand the motivation of cyber criminals. I've put it in such a manner that we have financially motivated cyber criminals. As the name suggests, it is about making money. And especially even with the COVID climate, you see there's a lot of trends such as cybercrime as a service going along. The tools and techniques have evolved immensely. We also have cyber armies and state-sponsored groups which are targeting primarily infrastructure and disrupting primarily access across governments, and trying to attempt to exfiltrate sensitive documents. The rest of them are more cyber terrorists and hacktivists for specific agendas, and also targeted motivated attacks from hacker groups with implicit motivation. So the motivational tree that you see here, the motivational pyramid that you see here, will give you an idea of the tools, the tactics, and the kind of motivations, because this is really important as we move along. The advanced threats continue to attack several sectors. I'll start off with the transport sector. We've seen a few of different types of attacks that continue to evolve. You might have heard of NetWalker. It's a ransomware strain that is around the August-September 2019 timeline. It's a Russian-speaking hacker group, and it is more ransomware as a service. Affiliates have been offered up to 84% of payout if gains exceed about 300,000. So they made a total of 25 million in a space of 5 months. One of the ways that they managed to get in is based on exploits due to unpatched VPNs such as Pulse VPN, Telerik, weak RDP passwords, or even exposed web applications. In fact, Pakistan was hit and targeted, and it was an OT attack, K Electric, that served almost about 2.5 million citizens. Then we have things like Doppelpaymer. This elucidates the strengths of Group IB as well. We saw this based on Emotet. Emotet uses a SHA-256 hash, and we saw that in Dridex 2.0. There are a lot of commonalities and similarities with Doppelpaymer, and basically it shares code with BitPaymer that was in August 2017, and it's a Tor-based payment portal. So based on this, doppelganger impacts more so than not the transport sector. And we have things like Nephilim, which was basically due to a Citrix vulnerability, also based on RDP escalation through local exploits that use things like Mimikatz, if you're familiar, to harvest credentials. They use AdFind to explore Active Directories, and even things like Cobalt Strike, which is a threat emulation software, to control the environment, scan the ports, and then get lateral movement and exfiltration, and thereafter ransomware, through even the use of .bat files and even remote execution. Then we have CLOB. I do not want to go too deep into it. It's basically a password stealing Trojan with fake software updates and Trojan cracks. They use things like spam mail as their entry point, and use things like macro.js script. So as we move along, just to show you how this is impacting the transport sector, Networker has gotten through quite a number of different websites, and it waits for the ransom. Otherwise, they publish the stolen data. A lot of compromised companies, as you can see here. Doppelpayment was the same thing, and this is Transport Express, Minimax, Thomas Motors, Digital Systems Engineering, Canpa, and even in Knoxville, Tennessee. These are companies who got exposed because they didn't pay the ransoms in June 2019. Nephilim attacked Stadler Rail, toll groups in Australia, W&T Offshore in terms of a US oil and gas perspective, highway maintenance service by arteries, and expanded victims included telco, energy and communications, and a few other groups. Clock impacted a few other customers you can see here, and against power supply, So essentially, it is not only automotive, in energy, electronics, and other types of companies that are very similar to this. We have other ransomware like Ragnar Locker, and those affected were Chinese branches in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and also Guangzhou. This is attacking a French container transport and shipping. Then we come to state-sponsored group. As you can see, we track a lot of state-sponsored groups, and we see a lot of different evolution recently, not only in Lazarus, Ocean Lotus. You've probably heard about the American exploits by APT41. This impacts supply chain, they use ACES Live Update, they use certificates of D-Link Corp to sign malicious programs, Cloud Hopper, access to HP and IBM networks out of China, impacting public military operations at hydroelectric power stations to rocket attacks from Hamas group, according to the IDF, and also the US and Iran on a nuclear missile launch control systems perspective. An attack was carried out on that, probably to disable them. This is very military-related operations. The hydroelectric power station was out of Guri, Venezuela, that caused massive blackouts. The attackers shift from using cyber espionage to cloud and even DDE, which is dynamic data exchange. And more so than not, Windshift was more to the Near East, while Blue Mushroom was in China, and Goalmaker was more towards the European side. You got other attackers like APTC36, and who attacked Colombia, and Singapore was attacked by Whitefly, Russia. Southeast Asia was also impacted, Hexane, and a lot of few other unknown ones that we are still investigating based on espionage. Threats to the government sector, just an example, this is the whole of China that we've seen last year of how this impacted telco, gas companies, and even government entities out of Australia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Brunei, APAC related. And telco and gas companies, Microscene, SIGDEC hackers that entered into corporate networks, Persuasion, APT30 out of Malaysia. So it is increasing. North Korea, who doesn't know Lazarus, right? And even Dark Hotel, these are some of the older ones, and these are some of the impacts. Ocean Lotus is a nation state, also known as APT32. and this is out of Vietnam. Attacks on energy sector, we've seen black energy, especially in the past, but now you still see actively Lazarus and Hexane. These are some of the ones that we are tracking very closely, but there are also other hidden players, and this makes it very important for you to have a proper early warning threat detection system. We've seen things like Industroyer utilizing backdoors, and we've seen Triton. I can't go too deep into this given the amount of time that I have, but just to give you a sensing of the overall. We've got Olympic Destroyer that was impacting the Korean Olympics, and this gave a scare to the Japanese as well, although it's been delayed. We've seen, I've spoke about Hexane, Leaf Miner is something out of Iran, and Xenotime, which uses Triton. So understanding the exploits is equally as important as attributing to the different threat actors. We spoke about Lazarus, black energy, the geography of the attack is Iran, and one of the tools that I mentioned was Industroyer. It impacts your ICS and SCADA, so your sensors need to ensure that you have some industrial level capability of detecting threats from SCADA and Modbus. Attacks on the telecom sector will be more towards THRIP, APT10, Lazarus still continued evolution from there, Hexane, and even WinNTI. Muddy water, we've seen it even right at the verge of 2019. So, this continues to be a prime worry for the telecom sector, which has a lot of information. BGP hijacking is something that one has to take note of. We saw a part of Rostel, which was out of Russia, have redirections to crack limited. We saw in Nigeria and also Switzerland having BGP hijacking attacks out of 2018 and 2019. In a DNS hijacking perspective, we've seen it still happen even in the likes of 2019, not much in 2020 at this time, but there are still compromises as such. In terms of filtration and blocking systems, it also still exists, and we've seen this in 2019, blocking Kazakhstan certificates out of Kazakhstan, prohibiting the use of dark matter root certs in Google Chrome and Android operating system, and Mozilla thereafter, and also search systems by IP address substitution from the block list to legitimate ones. The 5G sector remains, very gray, I would say. I heard China's launching 6G. We'll see about that one, but Great Britain had a huge impact of two-factor authentication bypass. This impacts an entire country. And using known protocols of SS7, attackers were able to intercept OTP. So OTP, as you can see, is not very safe per se, right? There are still exploits on it. The way to go is still multi-factor authentication. Some of the other attackers with geography out of Iran are Muddy Water, APT33, and Schaefer. Some of these are pretty old, but still active nonetheless, utilizing different tools and Trojans and even PowerStats backdoor. We have attackers coming out of on a supply chain for Hexane, THRIP, I just mentioned, more towards sabotage and espionage. APT10 in terms of Operation Soft Cell, and also Lazarus, like I said, continuing to push for it. Let's go to OT threats, given the time that I have. It's very attractive target for everyone. Intelligence agencies, the pen testers, the criminals, right? More towards espionage and sabotage. Again, going back to the motivations, improving security, espionage, and sabotage. You see that, a lot of activities in the intelligence agency arena are still ongoing until now. Pen testing since 2012, and criminals, having affiliate programs now more so than ever in terms of a ransomware as a service is getting higher and higher. These are, again, notorious APT groups that impact the OT sector, and we could go deep into each and every one of them, but given the interest of time, I'm just going to push this out and show you a little bit of interesting things. Saudi Arabia got attacked in terms of, in 2017, Xenotime switched its focus to power grids, and also Triton attacked Schneider's electric Triconex safety instrument systems. And you've got VPN filters that impact routers in almost 54 countries, to attacks on hydro plants, nuclear power plants, water supply plants, and even ports, right, that we've seen. So this is some of the things that one has to consider. So a lot of people come to me and tell me, but I've air-gapped my system. Trust me, you haven't. There's still a lot of different things that are still connected, and in terms of a network isolation standpoint, there are many ways to get through OT systems. So this is something that you can call us to get advisory on, to understand better, even on attacks on air-gap-based system. And we're more than happy to reach out to you and have a chat with you, because we see a lot of different impacts, not only on the IT but OT sector as well. And I wish I had more time to go through a lot more slides that I had to go and tell you some of these exploits in greater detail. But it's all about attributing, it's all about detecting, it's all about understanding the signatures, it's all about working together to understand the old school SCADA protocols that you have to bridge the gap. And without continued cooperation, then you are not going to have that kind of latitude of visibilities, right? And these are criminals that we've caught in the past, ranging from Cobalt to Silence, the Money Taker, and even other criminals out of APAC region as well. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you. Hopefully the COVID pandemic will be resolved soon. And I thank you very much for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.